physically, but to all problems we have in our lives, we need self-determination. It could be doing chores for a toy or a video game you want, or to save your best friend from the vile hands of a bully. You need self-determination for all of it. Self-determination is what pulls you to do something. Like when you want to try a cool sport because your friend in the class is really good. You want to try that sport to see if you can be amazing one day. Now that you know what it is, I can explain how it relates to freedom. Self-determination relates to freedom in the following ways. If a man is trying to embrace a woman but doesn't think he's good enough, a character doing work against his will to be free or to survive. Also, two characters desire to be together and a group's determination to kill others. And a wise man's determination to stay away from others' problems. Now I'm going to talk about the first way self-determination relates to freedom. In a novelette, The Call of the Law by Jack London, the main character, a dog named Buck, was brutally stolen from his family and turned into a sled dog. Buck tried his best to fight the hard conditions and bad treatment of the land and the human escorts. By the end of the story, Buck settled down with his human partner that he met throughout the story, but groups of Indians killed Buck's human companion. By this time, Buck released his inner wolf. In some ways, he's free, but in some ways, he isn't. Buck had self-determination when he was normal, but lost it when he became full-on wolf. His self-determination made him aware of who to treat well and who to be cautious of. If he was friendly to everyone, he wouldn't survive. Or if he was cruel and greedy to everyone, no one would help him. This is just survival. This is all just survival of sled dogs. Let's say Buck had no self-determination. He might kill himself, he might be lazy and not help doing anything useful. Self-determination is just this story. Self-determination in the story is what he was determined to do, like survive. In the novel on page 15 it says, dominant primordial beast was strong in Buck. This is, quote, dominant primordial beast was strong in Buck, end quote. This is what he needs. This is how he is self-determined to survive. He turned into a tough and smart dog. Buck is now free from humans, other dogs, and any other master. Buck is just free from all of it. Now, let's go to the second example of self-determination mixed with freedom. The third example is when two characters desire to be together. In the novel Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, the two characters, Romeo and Juliet, are self-determined to be together forever. In the story, they come up against challenges to test their devotion for each other. Romeo is a member of the Montague family, and Juliet is a member of the Capulet family. Both families have been in a feud, or a small war, if you would call it, with each other. Except one afternoon, the Capulets threw a masquerade ball, which Romeo and his friends attended. Since they will be wearing masks, they didn't have to worry about being caught. Romeo finalizes by being caught, but because of a lady that Romeo was in love with, they let him stay. While he was there, he met the most beautiful girl he had ever seen, named Juliet. He made eye contact immediately and fell in love, and same for Juliet. Through the entire novel, they had to hide from both families and lie to their parents. Eventually, Juliet's dad tries to marry Juliet to another man, which she is not happy about. Romeo gets banished for killing Tybalt, who killed Romeo's friend, and Juliet is looking towards her friar for help. She wants to be with Romeo, so she drinks a sleeping draught, which makes her fall into a deep sleep. Long story short, it makes her look dead. Her plan is to fake death, wake up in her family's tomb with Romeo waiting for her. Sadly, the messenger that is supposed to notify Romeo got quarantined. The message never got to Romeo, so he thought she was deceased. He was so incredibly sad that she was gone that he arrived at her tomb and spoke a few sad, lonely words and drank poison. Eventually, she woke up and saw dead Romeo next to her. She took Romeo's dagger and stabbed herself. Their self-determination made them inseparable in the way which they will kill themselves if one of them dies. Their desire to be together is their self-motivation because they needed it when Juliet's father tried to marry her to someone else. Also, Romeo needed it when he risked his life to visit Juliet in her grave, knowing that if he was caught, he would be sentenced to death. On page 227, Romeo says, "Here is to my love," thinking, "Oh, true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus with a kiss I die." End quote. This is Romeo killing himself because he wants to be with Juliet, dead or alive. Their self-determination resulted in them dying, but they were self-determined to be free with one another. Now we rotate to the fourth example. Self-determination leads to freedom in, quote, "a date which will live in infamy," end quote, speech by Franklin D. Roosevelt, December 8, 1941. This speech was about the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, when the Japanese bombed and killed loads of innocent people. This was the speech to convince Congress to enter World War II. Some civilians that survived the attack said that they heard explosions, and when they walked outside, they saw a cloud of smoke coming from the harbor, and Japanese planes flying all around. We were actually at peace with Japan, but they saw that friendship and used it as cover to attack Pearl Harbor. On page 2 of the speech, Roosevelt says, quote, "The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific." End quote. We were actually still trying to negotiate peace when the attack started. Roosevelt was self-determined to keep the peace and stay away from the European war, but now he is self-determined to join it and avenge the deaths at Pearl Harbor. Those deaths are his self-determination. Freedom relates to this by the U.S. giving Japan the orders after World War II, and we are now a free country once again, not having to send Japanese Americans on probation as spies. As we wrap this up, self-determination relates to freedom in the following ways. If a gentleman is trying to be in love with a woman but thinks he's hideous, or a character doing labor against his will, only to one day be free. Two lovers desire to stay together forever. A nation trying to kill others. And all of it has a connection to freedom. Buck wants to be free, like Buck wants to be free. Self-determination is going to always relate to freedom in some way, shape, or form. Also, like Romeo and Juliet's self-determination to be free together for all their lives, and Franklin Roosevelt's self-determination to avenge the deaths at Pearl Harbor. Also, you see, we all need self-determination for all problems, and as long as we have that, we will all survive, and not just survive, we'll live. Thank you. I tried to shorten it down in a few ways, and I was reading it to make sure it was good, but I didn't say the entire speech.
You're next. I'll just turn you around here.
Okay. I have that on paper, so I'm going to read it from paper. Not